Hello and welcome to today's video. You see the title, Conquering Fear. You might be thinking to yourself, I don't need to conquer fear. I'm fine. But in reality, fear is the biggest motivational driver for us people, and it holds us back from doing the things that we want to do. And there are massive negative consequences for giving into fear, which I'm going to get into as well. If you really pay attention to this and you do the things that I encourage you to do and recommend for you to do in this video and in the next video, this can really help serve you not only for recovery, but for your entire life and get you to where you want to be. There's a quote by Jack Canfield here: everything you want is on the other side of fear. And when you really think about it, it makes a whole lot of sense. So let's just get started. Before we do, though, before I dive into the slides, I'm going to share with you really quickly about myself. And if I gave into the fears, I would not be doing this right now. You would not be seeing me here. So, for example, for me, a couple of years back, I wanted to start speaking. I thought this is something I think I should do. I was kind of called to do it. Sometimes you have something within you, an idea, and it keeps bothering you over and over, something that's pulling you in a certain direction. And there was this course to learn how to speak with Les Brown. And I really wanted to do it. I was thinking about doing it. And for about 3 days on and off, I was thinking, oh, I want to do this. But no, but what if, all those negative what ifs that you know all too well about were popping up in my head. And on the third day, I said, nope, you know what? I'm not doing this. I'm giving into fear. I even admitted it because I used to do this all the time. I said, nope, I'm not doing it. I don't want to do this because I'm too afraid. And then I went to the bathroom right after. And this went on for 3 days. And I went to the bathroom right after. And when I went in there, a thought came to me like an internal voice. And it said, Kevin, you're going to die anyways. And when that happened, I actually started breaking out laughing because in that moment, I realized that the fear I had was not comparable to death whatsoever. And death comes for us all. And so when I shifted my perspective a bit and realized how laughable my fear was in comparison to death, I decided that I'm going to do it. And I took some action. And fast forward to today, to you watching this, here I am. So if I did not face the fear, I never would have known what I could do in regards to certain things. And then I forced myself to give a speech in front of people live. And of course, I was afraid, but it was amazing. So I know firsthand that facing your fears, stepping into your fears, and conquering your fear using certain methods will serve you 100% and make you feel much better about who you are and where you are going in life. But let's get started. That was just a little story for you that I wanted to share because I think that was powerful for me. Because once I was able to do that and step forward, things began to change for me, and my perception of myself and what I was capable of also began to change. And mind you, before that, every single time I had fear, I would just stop. I would I would succumb to it. And it was very negative for me. A lot of negative consequences of doing that in general. So let's get started. Here's some common fears right here, that we all think about: pain, failure, embarrassment, rejection, ridicule, death, and poverty. All very negative, of course. And what happens when you give into fear? And I know this from my own life experiences, and maybe you do too. Fear often leads to procrastination or following the wrong path entirely. Debilitating fears include fear of failure, fear of loneliness, fear of rejection, fear of ridicule, fear of criticism, fear of job loss, and fear of poverty. Ironically, succumbing to fear leads to the very failure you were afraid of. It's very interesting. So, what happens, and this is really important for people in recovery as well, because what happens when you give into fear, you end up becoming miserable after for it, because in the back of your mind you know that you're giving into fear yet again and not doing the thing that you feel called to go do. And so, what do? We try to cope. Some of us use meaningless distractions, we pursue stupid pleasures. And for people that were in addiction, how do they cope? They turn back to their substance of choice. So, being able to overcome the fear, step into the fear, is beneficial for you long term and short term because you might be fine for a little bit, but what happens is negativity will overtake you and you will try to cope with that negativity in one way or another. And unfortunately, what happens for many people as well is this is just how humans are. We prefer, known hells to unknown heavens because of the fear of the unknown. And since we are comfortable in misery, sometimes it's very difficult for us to step outside that and take a chance on ourselves and do different things that we are not that comfortable with, even though it could lead to something great. And so many people, they stay into addiction because of this reason, because of the fear of the unknown. But thankfully, you have already took a step, faced your fears, some of your fears, and you are here today. So let's just keep moving on here. And that's what I was saying here. We find ways to cope with it and giving into it, and then we turn to negative habits. And one thing that's interesting about fear is that when we are fearful and we don't have a sense of control. And the loss of prefrontal function only occurs when we feel out of control. It is the prefrontal cortex itself that is determining if we are in control or not. Even if we have the illusion that we are in control, our cognitive functions are preserved. So, if we are in fear and we think we don't have any control, we think irrationally a lot of the time. But even if we have an illusion that we have some control, we are able to think properly. And the perception of being in control is a major driver of behavior. So you can begin to regain control by preparing for fear using premeditation and preparing to take certain steps, which I'm going to talk about in just a second here. So premeditation was used actually thousands of years ago by the Stoics. And it seems a little negative, very negative actually, but there's a reason for this. It makes you more resilient to the things that you fear. So Seneca said, rehearse them in your mind. Exile, torture, war, shipwreck, all the terms of our human lot should be before our eyes. So they would think about all the terrible things that could happen to them. So that way they became stronger and more resilient to it and better prepared for it when things actually happen to them. And so for yourself, research and prepare yourself to face what you fear. The more you know about the process involved in what you fear, the more perceived control you have when facing it, the less fearful you become. And it's not like the fear is just going to step away completely as you begin to prepare. But the more prepared you are, the more control you have, the easier it is to actually face that thing. So, for example, for myself, I didn't know anything about speaking whatsoever. And I had to go through the process of learning how to formulate basically a script for myself that I was going to be saying, formulating the speech in general, and practicing it over and over and over again before I actually stepped on the stage. And because of this, even though I was extremely fearful to step on the stage, because of this, because I prepared myself over and over and over again, when I actually did it, I ended up doing a very good job. Even though I was struck with anxiety, had all the fear you could imagine, when I did it, what took over was my being prepared, taking the action. All the reps I took, that showed and that came out. So for you, whatever it is that you are afraid to do, the more that you know about the fear itself that you have and how to work your way through it and face it and do exactly what it is you are afraid to do, the more control you will have and the more perceived control in your mind you have, which will help you step forward into it and overcome it. So this is something too that has been used in psychology. This is science backed as well. And that is playing an alternative story in your head in relation to the fear. So as you sit, think about your current fear and what could happen if you took the action. all the terrible things that could come of you doing what it is you want to do that you're afraid to do. And as you play the story out, also think about a contradicting story to your fear. This is going on to the what if it does work out? What is a good thing that can happen if I do this? And as you hold both of those in your mind at the same time, what happens is your brain starts to recode the new memory, the new feeling over your current fear, which is really powerful. This is one of the ways they do this in psychology. If you go through with somebody who is kind of trained to do this, but you can do this yourself as well. It all comes down to us to actually do the internal work and flip the fear. This, I think, is the most powerful piece, especially if you have something bigger you're trying to do. And whatever you are failing to do because of fear, flip the scenario in your mind. Is your fear of not taking action stronger than your fear of an unfulfilled life? Am I more afraid of what I will become of me if I don't take the action? So basically, you have to play it out to the future a little bit here and ask yourself, if I continue to succumb to fear, what will come of me? Versus if I actually do the thing I'm afraid to do and step forward into it and at least try. And when you flip it, you could also use that as your motivation. The fear of becoming that person that you don't want to become because you did not take action. The same thing that we do in terms of the pain list. You're using the fear of the past, of those negative emotions and memories to keep you sober and to keep you from not picking up again. It's the same type of thing. You're flipping your fear to work for you rather than against you. Most of us don't use fear to push us forward to do things that we want. Most of us use or have fear be used against us, and we stay not moving forward because of it. And this is a little different for everybody, but the bigger something is that you feel pulled to do, the easier it is to flip the fear, because you can ask yourself, like, oh man, if I just continue doing what I'm doing now, then what will become of me? How am I going to feel? What type of negative emotion is going to overcome me as well in the process? And commit and take action. This has also been proven as well, along with everything else I've shared with you so far, that when you commit to doing something and you take action and you shift your focus to the task that you are trying to do, the fear begins to fade. And this is kind of like exposure therapy as well. The more you step into the fear, the more you do the things that you find fearful, the less hold it has over you and the less fearful you become. And of course, there could always be something there, but it won't have as much of a hold over you the more you commit, plan, take action. And so this is the assignment. It's very simple, and I'm going to have you hold on to this because we're going to use it going forward here. I want you to ask yourself, what are you failing to do because of fear? And you can list out the top things that you are failing to do right now because of fear. And then ask yourself the second question: am I more afraid of what will become of me if I don't take action? Again, we're just using the method that I just shared with you, flipping it on its head. And you just think about this, spend some time thinking about this, and be really honest with yourself, because maybe it won't really matter to you, but maybe it will. And also, I would encourage you to do what I did, which helped me move forward, and that is compare your current fear to the fear of death that you have. And just realize that our time is limited here. And so that is the assignment. This, if you are able to start doing things like this and face the fears, I'm promising you that your future will be much better off than if you don't. And when it comes to doing this, just prepare yourself, try to step into it, do it mentally first, and then actually take the action and make a little bit of a plan for yourself. And I don't have anything specific in terms of an assignment for you, in terms of you doing the thing it is that you are afraid to do, but that's something you're going to have to do on your own. And this assignment is going to tie into the next piece that we're doing in the next video. And then also, this can relate to what we're doing towards the end of this program for you as well. And I hope it does. All right, my friend, that's what I have for you. Once you can begin to conquer fear, you will begin to be able to do much greater things and feel much greater about who you are. All right, I'll see you in the next video.